Hey guys, project-zodiac here. I'm back with another video, and this is another video game review, and it's one that I'm super excited for. So this is my review for the newest Tron game, Tron Catalyst. Now, please keep in mind that this video will have spoilers for all of Tron Identity, which was the game released before this one, and also spoilers for Tron Catalyst. And this video will also be done in a podcast style. So I'm not really going to have any editing with this. It's just going to be me talking and the thumbnail picture. With that said, let's just go straight into this because I am super excited for this review. So the Tron series for me is actually something that's very, very special. And I'm so glad that right now we have the new movie coming out, Tron Ares. And not just the new movie, but in general, new Tron content through these two new games that we've recently had. The first one, like I mentioned, was Tron Identity, and I loved that game so much. It really built upon the lore, and it really explained many things about the ISO culture and also what actually happened with them. However, that game did actually end in a huge cliffhanger, and it left also a lot of things unexplained, not just in regards to the cliffhanger ending, but the game and the world itself. The developers, though, did confirm that they were working on a new Tron game and that it was gonna come out soon after. So I was really excited for that, and that game is finally out, and it is Tron Catalyst. And it's finally out just before the new movie Tron Ares comes out. So I'm recording this in August 4th, 2025, and the movie comes out in about a couple months, 2 months, so I'm super excited for that. But also, please keep in mind too that the movie itself, like I don't know if it's going to be referencing these two games, but these two games are canon. Um, I did play this game, Tron Catalyst, on the Nintendo Switch 2, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the review, as that is a little important. So I'm just very excited that this game is finally out, and it's right before Tron Ares comes out, and it is just finally a sequel to Tron Identity, establishing things that the ending for it had. So, what is it exactly that I like about this game? Does it hold up to Tron Identity? And how does it really advance the story overall? Well, let's leave the story itself for last. So, what is it exactly I liked about the game in particular? Well, I loved the visuals, they're amazing. It really fits the aesthetic of Tron. And unlike Tron Identity, where that one was a visual novel game, this one's more like a rogue game. So, it's got some open levels to walk around in and interact with other programs, which was really nice to somewhat explore this world and talk with these people. I thought that that was really cool. It really expanded on the lore a lot. I just really loved that overall. Because of that as well, we get a lot of new information through the codex, which I'll talk about in a little bit too. But before we get to the codex, let's talk a little bit about the combat. So I think that the combat feels great, and it's definitely Tron styled, even though many people complained about it. But I thought it was fun. You can also ride a light cycle and a light jet, so that's also pretty cool. There isn't a lot of combat with it, but there's a little bit of a combat with it, and I think it's really cool. I also think that the time rewind concept is done pretty well, and while it's not super in depth, it doesn't really need to be. It fits the story well enough. I also think that the voice acting is pretty good too. I thought, they handled it pretty well. The beginning parts is a little with it, but towards the middle and end of the game, the voice acting is really good. I also really like that you get to meet Hori. He's the program that saved Cass that we hear about in Tron Identity, but we never get to see him. So I thought that that was really cool. We finally get to meet him here. I also loved it that we get to see Kiri, the player that you or the program that you play as in Tron Identity. So that was really cool. And I also love that we get to see Cass as well. So that was really, really nice. Um, so pretty cool overall with that. And now for the music here, it's done so good, but we will talk about the music later on. So in regards to the codex though, so the codex really helps flesh out a lot of things about this universe, the story, the characters. It really adds a huge supplement to the overall narrative and to the overall concept. And on top of that too, it also, not just the codex, but them talking as you talk with the programs themselves, like mentions of their partners. I forgot exactly what they call their partners. They don't just say like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or partner. They used a particular terminology that I'm forgetting about. But it worked out really, really nice and it fits the world of Tron. So that was really, really cool to see. So, yeah, they expand on so many things on this world with this game. And not just in the world, but again, a more in-depth look into the lore itself is done through the codex, and it really worked so well. Really, that is one of the best things about this particular game is how the codex is done, because it actually does answer many questions that I had that was unresolved or not really explained properly in Tron Identity. Those basically being, well, this one isn't about, okay, so the game itself, in the codex and outside of the codex, they really expand on things that wasn't really explained um, in Tron Identity, that wasn't very clear. So one of those things is, for example, the game Tron Catalyst explains a little bit more about how Cass was in the vault and how they end up explaining their backstory to you, which was pretty nice. Um, I also really like that the codex does make it clear that all of the programs here are ISOs. So I thought that that was really well done because that was something that wasn't made clear in the original. So yeah, I'm just so glad that the codex at least does make it clear that all of the programs, or just about most of the programs in the ARC grid, really are ISOs. So thankfully this game makes that clear because again, Tron Identity kind of didn't. But with that said, those are mostly the good things I have other than the story. Um, let's go and talk about the complaints. Again, we'll leave the story stuff for last. So I do have some complaints. First, the game is a bit zoomed out too much, and there's no real way to zoom in. I didn't really like that. I also didn't really like that the mission box stays up the entire time. And I mean, that's not really the fault of this game. Most games do things like that anyway. It's just the placement of it and the way it's designed, it kind of sticks out pretty big. So I just didn't like that. Again, I also did like the voice acting. However, some voice dialogue scenes, those sections sometimes start super fast, almost like you're being punched with its initial starting speed. Like it just comes and it's just voice right away. And that was a bit shocking. Also, sometimes the text boxes when you're reading non-vocal dialogue, it doesn't really let you go up. So like you can't really scroll up. Um, and I didn't really like that because that was a bit interesting. Like if you wanted to reread something in the text history, you couldn't, and it also becomes an issue because sometimes the text box just ends without you even pressing a button first. It doesn't happen all the time, but it did happen a little bit. So that was a little annoying. And again, I did play this on the Switch too, and the visuals are good, but unfortunately, and the reason why I'm making this clear that it was on the Switch 2 is because even on the Switch 2, the visuals weren't very sharp and it looked very low budget in this sense, and it is a smaller indie developer, so I'm not complaining about that. I just wish that it looked a little bit sharper, especially with it being on the Switch 2. If I had played this on just the Switch 1, I would have understood that, but I guess it's the same version for all systems, independent if it's Switch 1, Switch 2, or PS5. It seems like it just looks the same, not very sharp. I could be wrong on that as I didn't play it on the PS5, but yeah, I just think that that could have been a lot more sharper because it looks a little jaggedy in some parts. But anyway, again, the combat itself is also very good. It's basic, it doesn't need to be overly complicated. I'm fine with the combat. A lot of people did complain about it, but really, it's fine. However, it does have a few features to try to make the combat a little bit more in depth. And that's basically taking the code of enemies' weapons to give you some enhancements. And that is really, really cool. I really love that. But the complaint with it is that it doesn't really do much. Like, it really doesn't feel like much of anything happens. So it really just feels kind of pointless. Like, you're still using your identity disc, it's still the same color, just basically nothing happens. So I didn't really like that. And also some of the sub weapons that you get, like some bombs, and things like that. They're cool, but they're rather pointless. The grenade is the one that you use most often, really, and yeah, I think they could have handled that a little bit more. And now, one of the biggest complaints that I have is, as I said, the music is fantastic. I love the music in this game. And it's made by the same guy that made the music for Tron Identity. And the music for Tron Identity is so good. Um, but unfortunately, the music here for Tron Catalyst, again, the music is amazing. The issue isn't the music. The issue is that the sounds of the music sound so low. Even when the max music settings is put all the way up in the settings menu. So you can't really make out too much of the music. And I thought that that was just really annoying because I really wanted to hear the music because it was so good. But on top of that, not only is it a bit hard to really make out the music, you can't really tell the difference very much of the music that's happening on, like that's going on throughout this game, um, because it makes you think that there's only a few tracks in this game, given how low it is in terms of the volume, and because it is a synth kind of atmospheric music, it kind of blends into each other, not in a bad way. It's just like when it's in low volume, you can't really see the difference of it very often, other than in a few moments. So it really doesn't feel like there's that many tracks in this particular game. But turns out when you hear the soundtrack by itself, because the soundtrack is released and you can hear it on YouTube and Spotify and all of that, when you hear just the soundtrack by itself, you get to hear really how amazing the soundtrack is and how different each song sounds. And it's really cool because this particular game has way more music in it than Tron Identity did. Like, the composer did only about 12 songs for Tron Identity. Here he did about 40. So yeah, there's a lot more songs. So when you hear just the album itself of this particular game's soundtrack, you really hear how unique each of those songs are and how atmospheric they are and how well done they are and how perfect they fit into the Tron aesthetic and how they complement the Tron world and the soundtrack for Tron Identity as well. It's just in the game itself, it doesn't sound like that there's that many songs, and it's really hard to hear them. So the way that the music was balanced in the game, I don't think was handled very well. but when you hear it outside of the game, the music is truly amazing. So, um, yeah, moving on from the music though, I also really didn't like how the time lock situations that they talk about, like the time concept, it wasn't really explained that well, but it's okay. Again, it's enough that you get the idea of it. But alright, those are my main complaints about the game itself, other than the story and also my praises. So now let's go into the story elements. So, what is it exactly that I thought about the story, how it relates to the Tron universe, and being a sequel to Tron Identity? So, what is it that I think? Well, honestly, it's really good. In this game, you don't follow Kiri like you did in Tron Identity, but you follow an ISO called EXO, and she tries to figure out what's going on with the time loop that she's in, and that's really, really cool. So, also, this story does follow up on the ending of Tron Identity pretty well because now people know for a fact that the grid is actually going to end. And it seems that this is set sometime after Tron Identity, not right after it. So it seems like it's set maybe a year or two after Tron Identity. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I really like that. I also thought it was surprising to hear and to see that in the new ending of this game, in the ending of this game, that they actually introduced a new cliffhanger, that there's actually a big possibility that they can save the arc grid. So I really hope there will be a third game that explains what happens after this one. Now, obviously, it won't be told or released before Tron Ares, as this game just came out in June and Tron Ares comes out in October, just a few months apart from each other. Um, but maybe in a year or two, we can get a third game based inside of the arc grid, uh, to basically explain what this new way is that they might be able to save it. So I really hope that we do. Now, in terms of my biggest plot issue that I have is that while this game uses the codex to explain a lot of things that Tron Identity didn't, it still fails to explain one very important thing, and that is how is it that Kevin transferred some of the ISOs over to the arc grid? I wish we had been given some information on that on the codex or even through dialogue. Because again, the codex did make a bunch of other things clear that wasn't clear in Tron Identity. This particular thing is something that I hope that they do really explain in the next game. Um, so overall, for me, honestly, it makes it makes more sense for me that the art grid was a new system made for the eventual transfer of the ISOs by Kevin. And until he could transfer them, he made regular programs to take care of it. And that the automata were a new type of program that came into being in this arc grid, and that they're basically the ISOs of the arc grid. Um, but then eventually Kevin couldn't transfer the ISOs over in time and and he ended up getting trapped in the main grid. So that concept of what I just explained, for me, that makes more sense. That all the programs in the arc grid are programs except for the automata, that the automata are ISOs. This doesn't really contradict anything. Um, because like in the established lore, so I think that that would be fine, but unfortunately at the same time, fortunately, this game does confirm that they're not regular programs, they are all ISOs, including the automata being ISOs as well. So again, I'm glad that this is ISOs, that the ISOs did survive. Korra isn't the last of her kind. um, but we really need explanations for this. So, um, yeah, I really, really hope that they explain how that happened. Especially because in Tron Legacy, Kevin keeps saying that Korra is the last of the ISOs. Obviously, he could have just been holding back information to let her believe she's the last of the ISO and Sam as well, in case anything happened, like with Clue getting their discs or sorry, or something like that. It would make sense that he would want to keep that secret, especially since he made this whole backup thing. So it's fine. I just want to know when and how he did the transfer, basically. So it doesn't really contradict it. But since everyone is confirmed to be an ISO in this arc grid, that concept of what I had explained, what I thought made the most sense, unfortunately can't be the way for it. Um, but I hope that they do explain it, because if they don't, then what I was thinking makes the most sense. That the automata are the only ISOs, they are not all of the programs, but unfortunately that's not how they're handling the story. So hopefully they really do explain it. So yeah, I'm done with the little ramble for that. So the last thing that I have to say about all of this is in regards to Tron Ares coming out. Now, I'm not sure if they will mention the arc grid at all, and honestly, I don't think that they will. However, it will be really nice if they do, especially since there is a section in the Outlands in Tron Catalyst when you go to the Outlands, because you do go there. Um, there's a section in the arc grid which I thought was really interesting. There's a tower or three towers that you have to go to, and this tower is in the shape of a triangle. But it's not just in a shape of a triangle. No, it's actually done in a shape of a triangle that is very similar to Ares's identity disc. His identity disc isn't a circle, it's a triangle, but it's like a stylized triangle. And these towers look very similar to that. So maybe it is a reference to Tron Ares, the movie itself, and other types of discs, and this particular shape itself. We don't know yet. It could just be an Easter egg. Um, but yeah, overall though, I really don't think that the movie will talk about the arc grid. Um, but if they do, it will be really cool. As and also with them explaining what happened to Kevin, Sam, Cora, the Flynn Lives movement, and back from Uprising, and also what happened to Tron. These things now are the things that needs to be addressed some way. So overall, I just hope that Tron Ares addresses most of these or all of these, because these are some very important things. Um, anyway, I'm just super excited for the next Tron game and for Tron Ares. After 15 years of waiting, this movie is finally coming out, and I'm so excited. And I'm so excited that we have new Tron content that is canon as well, because yeah, the Arc Grid saga is canon to the Tron universe. So that's all I have to really say about this. This game was amazing. It was a fantastic follow-up, and I really liked it. I have some nitpicks, some complaints as well, but overall, it's a fantastic game. But with that said, guys, let me know what you think about this game. Are you excited for Tron Ares? Let me know your thoughts. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.